Life gain and life drain in a P EDH deck? Let's find out how in another installment of Think Outside the Deck Box. This is a Dina Soul Steeper, my wife's PDH deck now of a friend, because we're gifting it for Christmas. For 2 you get a 1/3 Dryad Druid, who says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. And this is actually the effect we are building around. She has an extra effect to be able to sack creatures to boost herself, but this you might use once each game or so, maybe twice. We split the deck into different categories. We have life gain, ramp, removal, and card draw. All of these categories also gain you some life, some protection, also some life gain in here, and lands, which also gain you life. All of them triggering Dina over and over again, slowly draining your opponents to death. Now let's start out with the big life gain pile. We're starting out with an elf from Onslaught. For 2 you get a 1/1 which you can tap to gain 1 life per elf in play. Now you might ask if this is an elf deck. No, but we're playing a couple and just gaining 1 life is already enough to trigger Dina, and being able to do that over and over again throughout turns can accumulate quite some damage over time. We are also playing extort cards here. Syndicate Enforcer, Basilica Screecher, both of them give all your spells extort. Now you might wonder why there is a white pip in the reminder text, and don't worry, you are allowed to play extort in any decks that have the color of the creature itself, because it's just the reminder text. So the mana symbol actually does not matter. But being able to empower all your spells with some extra life drain from each opponent actually is a powerful force that you should not underestimate. We have several landfall life gainers, so whenever we get lands into play, we get some life points and then drain our opponents with Dina. We play several fetch lands, as you might imagine, so all of these 3 are wonderful cards to include in here. We are also playing creatures that gain us life whenever a creature enters the battlefield. This actually also triggers whenever an opponent's creature also enters, so those are strong. We have general life gain shenanigans, Epicure of Blood and Marauding Blight Priest. Both of them, whenever we gain life, let each opponent lose an extra life. This does not go infinite in any way, but both of them are wonderful additions to this deck. Death Creature, whenever any creature dies in play, actually both of them. Also the Falkenrath Noble drains 1 life, triggering Dina over and over again over the progress of the game. This enchantment lets you drain each opponent by 1, and you can sack it later on for 6 to drain them even further out. This isn't the strongest card by itself, but it just accumulates. Every little trigger lets you drain your opponents a little more. So having this repeatable and at some point a kill button that you can push should also not be underestimated. We have several other enchantments here. This just simply at your end step lets everyone drain you a life, and the Trespasser's Curse actually lets you enchant the creature heaviest player to also let them get a life drained per creature that they play. We play a couple lifelink creatures. These 2 just have lifelink, have flying, therefore are hard to be blocked and evade. Revive the Shire you could also put towards card draw maybe. It gives you 1 permanent card back into your hand and also creates a food token which you can later sack to gain life and trigger Dina. Gift of the Woods is an unknown card from Alliance that you probably haven't seen before. If the enchanted creature is blocked or blocks, it gets +0/+3 and you gain a life. And normally you put this on your commander because she already has a toughness of 3, and then she has a toughness of 6 or any other creature that you want to block with. We play several spells throughout turns, as you might imagine, because most of them are quite cheap, and Weather the Storm gives you a copy of this card per spell that was cast before it. You could even cast it instant speed, so if you have a Spellslinger deck against you, you could use their storm counter to copy Weather the Storm multiple times, triggering Dina multiple times, so keep that in mind. Pulse of Miraza, similar to the Revive the Shire, gets you a creature or land card and 6 life. Drain your opponents again. Kitty lets you drain your opponents, and with Dina out, again you drain even more. and you can sack a food to get the kitty back. Scorpion drains once by 2 life to each opponent. We have some token creators here with pest tokens which synergize well with the life gain ability and draining of your commander. Hunt for specimens also drains life, also creates pests. The learn ability I normally don't use. If you're in casual games and you allow some sideboarding, you could put in some more lesson cards. But if you have a card that you no longer need, you can discard it and draw a fresh card. Chatter Storm, I think it is in English, lets you create a 1/1 squirrel token and has Storm. It does not have instant speed, so you cast it during your turn. Normally you get like 3-4 squirrels, which is already quite great, and cards like Bushmeat Poacher can sack them later on for some more life gain triggers and also replacing them by drawing a card. Now you might wonder, Ramp, how can we gain life? Pristine Talisman, whenever you tap it, you gain 1 life. We have Gift of Paradise, which when enters gets you some life. We play several solid ramp cards like the Elves of Deep Shadow, which has you dealt 1 damage whenever you tap it, but we're playing a life gain deck. We don't really mind our life total normally, because we're getting it right back. Land of War Elves, obviously. Sakura Tribe Elder, obviously. Fetch a land. Farseek to fetch a land. Springbloom Druid to sack a land and get 2 lands, and you remember the landfall triggers in here, which gets you more life points and more Dina triggers. Farhaven Elf gets you a land, Cultivate gets you 2 lands and 1 of them into the hand, and those are the same card beside the Arcane subtype. There is even life gain in removal. Quiet Despair is another secret tech card that you might not know, and I find cool to include in a life gain deck because it's so unknown. You enchant a artifact or enchantment, and during your upkeep you either destroy that permanent or you gain 2 life. And if it's cool that it lies around, you don't destroy it and you trigger your Dina over and over again during your upkeeps and keep it around. Return to Nature has some options. Always love options in Pauper. Broken Bond, also some options, and you even get a land, triggering your landfall creatures maybe. Gets you some life when you destroy an artifact or creature. Enchantment, Natural End, same here. Tithing Blade I like because it lets your opponents sack a creature, and on the back also drains life of your opponents. I think you get a theme by now, don't you? You have Breathe Your Last, destroying a creature or planeswalker and gaining 1 life per color. Bake into a Pie for a food token and creature destruction. Vicious Rumors to deal 1 damage to each opponent, then have them discard a card, putting the top card of the library into the graveyard and gaining you 1 life. Severed Strands, you sack a creature, destroy a creature and gain life equal to the toughness of the sacked creature. Siphon Mind, normally you would also count towards card draw, because it lets everyone discard a card and you draw a card per card discarded this way. And we're even playing a board wipe with Pestilence, letting you pay 1 black mana per damage that you want to deal to every creature and every player. We have the most life normally at the table, and therefore we don't mind. Now, the card draw pile. There are some card draw cards that also gain you life. Urborg Repossession, and not directly is card draw, but for 3 you get 2 cards from your graveyard, so it kind of counts towards card draw now, doesn't it? And lets you get some life. Foreboding Fruit gets a food token if you paid a 3 black into it, and also draws you 2 cards and lets you lose 2 life. Metal Fox lets you get 2 life and draws you a card. Then we have a couple Sacrifice Shenanigans, which also gain you some life and lets you draw cards. This loses you some life, but lets you also draw cards. Lets you scry, lose life, draw cards. Lets you draw, lose life, lets you sack, draw 2 cards, has flashback. Lets you draw 2 cards by sacking a creature or artifact. Similarly here, sack a creature, draw 2, this is the same card. Sanguine Indulgence is reduced by 3, so just 1 black to get the 2 best creatures from your graveyard back to your hand. And the Dimir House Guard is a card that has some kind of tutor function. We, in 99%, will not cast it as a creature, but we will get cards that cost exactly 4 with the transmutability. And if you watched closely, there are some cards that are quite powerful in the 4 mana range, which is why I included this tutor here. I anything else in here? Yeah, we can also get an extort card. We could also get the board wipe, you know? Like, there are several cards. You can look at the deck list in the description also to see which exact cards you could fetch with that, but I would say for each scenario you could get a card that you actually need right this instant with this tutor. Now, lastly, the protection pile before we look at the interesting life gain lands, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Infuse with Vitality lets you protect a creature, give it Death Touch. There's even Dina on there, I think. And you gain 2 life. You again save a creature, give it lifelink and boost it a bit. You reanimate a creature, or you have cycling. And Respite is a little fog effect, gaining you also some life back. Now, let's look at the lands. We have the Cabin that gives you a food token if you have more than 2 forests. Jungle gives you a life and enters tapped. Radiant Fountain gives you 2 life. Glimmer Post, I think it is, gets you also 1 life. These fetch lands also always give you 1 life and 2 landfall triggers with the landfall trigger guys. This one as well. We have Witch's Cottage, which gets you the best creature card on top of your library. More fetch lands like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. Witherbloom Campus to scry if you don't have anything else to do. Colony Garden gives you a token that you might sack to a card drawer, or you name it. We have Barnmoor and Tranquil Thicket, both of them you can cycle to replace them. A Command Tower, another Dark Moss Bridge, dual land indestructible. This might get you one of the food creator or creature putting on top of the graveyard cards back to your hand to use them again. And then we're playing, I think, 9 swamps in this deck, as well as 8 forests. And now I do want to hear from you which cards you would have included in this deck in the comments below. You might keep it Pauper if you want to, because this is a Pauper deck, but also if the friend that gets this Dina deck wants to upgrade it to a non-Pauper deck and just include any cards that they own, let them also know what they should put in here in an upgraded non-Pauper Dina deck. Hope to read you all in the comments. Happy holidays, depending on when I upload this video, probably next year though, because I have several lined up these days. I wish you a beautiful day, keep your drains clean, and bye bye.